The film starts when Ryan wakes up in his car and decides to go back to his dorm room. On his way, he runs into a lady walking her dog, a homeless guy, and also a skateboarder. He's feeling groggy after spending the night in his car, and inside the dorm building, he passes by a guy playing trombone while another guy is telling him to shut up. Ryan eventually gets to his room, but after opening the door, he finds that his roommate Carter is making out with his girlfriend, Tree. They force him to leave, which annoys Ryan, but just then he receives a call from his friend Samar, who wants to see him ASAP. Thinking it may be something important, Ryan meets Samar outside the quantum lab where they have built a machine with their third partner, Dre. Dre and Samar explain how the machine started working on its own the other night and caused a huge power surge. This is an interesting development for Ryan, and he's wondering what might have happened when Dean Bronson walks into the lab to complain about the power outages caused by their machine. While Samar and Dre go to the cafeteria, Ryan has to deal with Bronson, who says he's going to shut down the project since the machine is not useful to anyone. Annoyed by this news, Ryan sits down on the couch, and this is when he receives a picture of himself taken only a moment ago. While trying to look for the person who took that picture, he receives another one in the hallway. He can hear someone going into the chem lab, and he believes that it is one of his friends playing a prank on him. So he starts looking around the lab and hears someone inside the closet. But as soon as he opens the door to the closet, he gets scared by Samar, who has brought some food for him. While Samar is busy picking up the food, a man in a baby mask stabs Ryan. And just like that, he wakes up once again in his car. On his way to his room, he can already predict the actions of other people, and he tells Carter that he is likely having deja vu. His words scare Tree, since she had to live the same day over and over again until she found the identity of the person who was trying to kill her. She tells Ryan that the same thing will happen to him, so they need to find out who wants him dead. The three of them go back to the chem lab holding baseball bats. They open the closet, but there is no one inside. However, Samar once again scares Ryan with the same baby mask. Tree is wondering what's going on when she hears about Ryan's machine and asks him about it. Ryan shows her the machine and even explains that they created it to stop time at a molecular level. However, somehow Tree got stuck in the loop when the machine had that power surge, and now that she's out of the loop, Ryan is stuck in it. They're talking about it at the cafeteria when Tree's friend Danielle shows up there and asks her to pay attention to their sorority meetings. After she leaves, Carter comes up with the idea to keep Ryan safe by taking him to a public space. So they go to the college basketball game and try to find some safety in the crowd. While watching the game, Carter notices that Tree is a little sad after looking at a picture of her late mother. He tries to cheer her up and it works, but just as she goes to give him a kiss, alarms go off and everyone is told to vacate the premises of the building. While they're trying to evacuate, Ryan gets separated from the others and he can see the masked man waiting for him in the hallway. Scared, he goes back into the building to run away from the guy who's coming after him with a knife. He hides inside what looks to be a storage room, but this is when the masked guy grabs him. He's about to get stabbed when out of nowhere, Tree hits the masked man in the head and knocks him out. They immediately take off the mask to see the identity of the killer, and to their absolute shock, it's Ryan himself. They're wondering how this guy looks exactly like Ryan when he wakes up and says that he is Ryan but from a different timeline, and he got stuck here when he was trying to close the time loop. He wants Tree and Carter to take out the other Ryan, but they are really confused about the whole situation. This is when Ryan from this timeline decides to start up the machine once again. The other Ryan begs him to stop, and Bronson even asks the security guard to destroy the machine, but it's too late, and an electromagnetic explosion sends everyone flying into the air. The next time Tree wakes up, she finds herself back in Carter's room, and it's still her birthday. She loses it after realizing that she's stuck in the loop again, and she asks Ryan to solve the whole thing, but he doesn't even recognize her. Still, she asks him and Carter to follow her to the sorority house, and on her way, she witnesses all the events back from her loop. However, inside the sorority house, she notices that things are different, and her roommate Lori isn't even trying to poison her like the last time. Tree doesn't know what's going on, so she explains everything that has happened, and Ryan believes that she not only went back into time after the energy blast in the lab, but somehow she has also entered another dimension where certain things are different from how they used to be. His theory is quickly proven right when Tree sees Danielle kissing Carter in front of her. After finding out that her boyfriend is now dating Danielle, Tree goes to meet her dad at a restaurant, and there she gets the greatest birthday gift of her life. Standing before her is her mother, who was dead in the previous dimension. Tree can't believe her eyes, and she gives her mom a big hug and tells her how much she loves her. While she's having this reunion, Ryan and the others are starting the machine back up to send Tree back to her dimension. But before they can initiate the process, Tree gets there and tells them to stop. She's walking out of the lab when Carter asks her why she changed her mind. However, Tree can see Dr. Gregory standing nearby, and she doesn't want to talk to him, so she goes back to her sorority. That night, she looks at all the videos she made with her mom, but she doesn't remember living through any of those experiences. Just like before, Danielle is there to borrow her dress, and as expected, the power goes out. These events remind Tree about the serial killer John, who's currently being treated at the faculty hospital. She remembers how John escapes and takes many lives, so she runs to the hospital and after grabbing an axe, goes into John's room to stop him. But he's not there, and the guard on duty arrests Tree for bringing a weapon there. He's taking her outside when suddenly the masked man stabs him in the hallway. Tree has to run for her life, and this is when she runs into Lori. But unlike last time, Lori is not trying to kill her, and she even saves her life by pulling her into the elevator. They're trying to get out of the building, but the power goes out, and they have to get off the elevator to find an escape. Lori is holding a hammer for protection, but before long she ends up getting stabbed by the masked man. Tree tries to escape the guy's clutches and even pushes him down the stairs, but she's handcuffed and can't do much to protect herself. So she runs to the roof and ends up falling to her death. Once again, she wakes up in Carter's room in the same dimension where he's dating Danielle, which disturbs Tree since she loves him. After changing her clothes, she goes to the lab with Ryan and his friends and tells them they need to close the loop or she will keep living the same day over and over again. Ryan explains that they will need to test dozens of algorithms until they find the one that can close the loop, and since after each loop they will forget about the whole thing, Tree will have to remember those algorithms to help them find the one which works. So for the next few weeks, Tree watches as Ryan tries different algorithms, and after each one fails, Tree takes her life by either electrocuting herself or by jumping from a plane. During this time, she also learns that in this dimension, Gregory is dating Lori instead of her. Then one morning after resetting the loop, she passes out in Carter's arms. She wakes up in a panic inside the hospital where Carter tries to calm her down, and Tree uses this opportunity to tell Gregory that John's going to escape and will take Lori's life, so he needs to help her. After he runs out, she goes to John's room where she knocks out the guard and takes his gun for protection. She finds a blood trail on the ground, and at the end of it, she finds Lori's body. The masked man is trying to stab her, and she shoots him down. However, there's another one of them, so she blows up some gas tanks to reset the loop. And just like dozens of times before, she once again has to explain the whole thing to Ryan and his partners. She explains all the algorithms that have failed, which leaves only one, and after putting it into the machine, Ryan realizes that it's going to work. After Tree tells them not to send her back into her previous dimension, Ryan is ready to close the loop, but due to a virus, he has to write the whole code again. This will take 6 to 7 hours, and Tree knows she has to stay alive until then. She plans to go away, but Carter tells her that she has to save Lori and others at the hospital or they will die. But Tree doesn't want to go anywhere near the hospital. She's already frustrated because she is forced to choose between her mom or the dimension where she is dating Carter, who she loves with all her heart. Carter tells her that she doesn't belong in this dimension, so she should say goodbye to her mom and go back to the dimension she came from. After this interaction, Tree goes to the restaurant and asks her parents to take her far away from there. Concerned about her well-being, her parents don't ask questions and drive her out of town. While she's on the road, Ryan is ready to start the machine. Meanwhile, Carter is running around in the hospital trying to stop John. Tree, on the other hand, is spending the night at a motel where she asks her mom if it's okay to leave the love of her life behind. Her mother advises her to follow her heart. Just then, Tree turns on the news to see that Carter and Lori have been killed in the hospital, and she knows that if Ryan closes the loop, they will never come back to life. After Ryan doesn't pick up her calls, she decides to reset the loop before it's too late. So she drives out of there and straight into a power plant where she ends up colliding with a transformer. And just like that, she's back again in Carter's bed, and she's happy to see him. She goes back to the laboratory and tells Ryan how to close the loop. This time she asks him to send her back into her own dimension. While he's working to get the machine started, she goes to her sorority where she runs into Lori. Tree tells her to stop dating a married guy like Gregory since it will only cause trouble for her. After saying goodbye to Lori, she goes into Danielle's room and finds out that she has been cheating on Carter with another guy. Embarrassed by the whole situation, Tree leaves the sorority and goes to meet her mom at the restaurant. She finally tells her mom how much she loves her and how much she cherishes her time with her. And after celebrating the best birthday of her life, she goes back to the lab where Ryan is starting the machine. Tree is excited to go back into her own dimension, but her plans are cut short when Bronson gets there and stops the machine before confiscating it. Carter thinks that Tree should reset the day, but she doesn't want to die again since her body is already in a terrible condition and she might not come back to life again. Instead, she wants them to steal the machine from Bronson's office, and Ryan agrees with her. That evening, Samar explains how they can take away the machine before Bronson even notices it, but they will need some kind of distraction to steal his keys. So Tree asks Danielle for help, and she goes to meet Bronson pretending to be a blind French student. While Bronson is trying to help her, Danielle steals his keys and gives them to Tree, who immediately runs to the lab and takes out the machine. While Ryan is taking the machine back to the lab, Tree and Carter return the keys to Danielle, who hits Bronson to keep him distracted. Back in the lab, Ryan's running some diagnostics to start the machine when Tree realizes that she has to save Lori from the killer. So she runs to the hospital and steals the guard's gun before asking him to call for backup. She then goes into John's room and shoots him before he even gets a chance to do anything. While she is trying to take Lori out of the hospital, Ryan starts the machine, and this is when Bronson figures out that he's been tricked. While he is busy trying to confiscate the machine once again, Tree tells Lori that he is the real target of the killer, who is none other than her lover, Gregory. It turns out Gregory's wife found out about his affair, and he is trying to eliminate Lori to cover his tracks. Tree is holding him at gunpoint, but she fails to realize that Gregory isn't alone, and in fact, his wife is also in on this. She shoots Lori in the stomach and hands over the gun to her husband to finish off Tree. However, Gregory is a sadistic man, and he shoots his wife to get rid of any witnesses. He then goes after Tree, who's running away from him. She ends up in the MRI room where she gets cornered. Gregory is about to shoot her when she gets an idea and turns on the MRI machine. Immediately, Gregory gets stuck to the machine, which is pulling all metal objects, and eventually Tree releases the screwdriver from her hand, which stabs Gregory in the heart, and he dies. Back in the hallway, Tree learns that Lori is alive and she will survive her injury. Carter is also there, and Tree tells him that she's going back just for him. They are about to kiss when the machine finally starts up, and in a moment, Tree is back in her dimension. She wakes up in the lab, which is destroyed due to the blast, and after learning that she is in the right dimension, she gives her boyfriend a big hug. A few days later, Tree and all her friends are cleaning the campus as a punishment for their actions when men dressed in black suits show up there. A guy who introduces himself as Dr. Parker takes them to the headquarters of DARPA, where scientists are trying to understand the functioning of Ryan's mysterious machine. They want to know which algorithm can start or stop a time loop, and to their surprise, Tree knows all about it. However, they need a test subject for their experiments, and Tree volunteers Danielle for this nightmarish experience. If you enjoyed that recap, I got a good feeling you'll enjoy this one too. Click on the video on your screen for more.